Alrighty, Old Roller Nation, welcome to the show. 5th degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Higa Machado, Judo black belt. Forget the name for the Shudo classification.
Class A shooter.
Class A shooter and general martial arts genius, Erik Paulson. Sensei Paulson, thank you so much for joining the show. This is amazing. I am just over the moon having you here.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. Sorry it's late there.
No. This is just fine. I'm actually gonna go. My son is 8 years old, and so I'm getting him used to camping. So we have a little tent in the backyard, and so once this is over, we'll go play some a couple of games or whatever in the tent just to get him kind of comfortable with it. And so
do you guys have Sasquatch out there? No, for real, they do. I mean, there's a lot of shows that I've watched, and there's more and more in the South. There's more and more sightings of Bigfoot.
Well, I might have dated one or two, but I can't say
that's
that.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah. I wouldn't, like go around town, telling everybody about it. You know what I'm saying? We'll keep that between us. But obviously, it's a strange situation that we're currently in. And before the show, you and I were talking about, some of the training and what we could do to try and improve in some challenging times. And just to give you just a general rundown of the goal of the show, I say this on every episode. I'm sure my listeners are tired of it. But this show was created purely selfishly, but through the nature of the show, I get to share the insights of great coaches, physical therapists, nutritionists, and strength and conditioning specialists in the idea of speeding up the skill acquisition curve for grappling and fighting, and then also maintaining skill and being dangerous into what we'll call a youth impaired state. So getting up in the years, which the joke of the show is that everybody's an old roller. Like if you're 18 today, guess what? You're not getting a day younger. So you're on your way. And so we want to learn from people like yourself who have been, you're like as OG as American OG grapplers can get. And so I know that along the way, you've picked up some insight about how to get good, because clearly you are, and how to maintain that and build a base of skill that you can, and technique that you can use, so that as our youth and we'll say athletic acumen somewhat deteriorates, our skill takes over for it.
Well, I want to say real quick, since you're doing a lot of garage training, which I was keen to that when I first started training with Hoyce and Rorian and then Hickson. One of the rules was that you weren't allowed to put a mat in your garage and teach or train your friends or anyone else. The only way for you to get better was you had to do more private lessons. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, how are you going to get any better if you can't, do some extra training on the side? They go, well, you need to do more privates. And I'm like, well, what if you can't afford to do more privates? Back then, I was very fortunate. I got Master, Rorian, Hoyce, Hickson, and Higgin for $40 a half hour, $40. So, back then that's like $300 today. I'm talking 1986 through 1990. That was the going price.
Yeah.
And Hickson had a group class eventually he wanted me to jump into. And so one thing that for me, I always had the idea that I was going to fight. When I lived in Palm Desert, I moved from Minnesota to Palm Desert, and my whole goal was to train at the Untitled Academy, finish college, continue my acting and modeling career, which eventually turned to acting and stunts, which then turned immediately to stunts. So it was stunts, martial arts, and college. And then it was kind of weird. Just everything happened, and next thing you know, I'm offered. I was training. I was like, man, I love martial arts so much. I'm training so much. I wonder how much of what I'm learning really works.
Mm-hmm.
That was my quest, was to find out what I love to do, all these different arts. And I'm like, I would really love to try this out somehow. And when I was a little kid, my brother goes, you should go in the army. You should go in the military, because all you want to do is fight, because that's all I talked about. And it's true. And I attempted to go in. I actually signed up for the army. I was going to go to Fort Bragg, and what had happened is I took my first test when they tested me. This was in 1982, 1983. They tested me, and I had something called proteinuria, which is I was spilling too much protein in my pee. So the next time I had to do another test, and they go, okay, we're going to go into a longer detailed test. We're going to pee test you every hour for 3 straight hours or 4 straight hours. So the first hour I had to fast. So I woke up and I was hungry, and I drank some coffee, and I was so hungry, and I was almost ready to pass out because I was hypoglycemic. So next thing you know, I toughed, so I peed, no problem. I had to wait an hour. I peed again, and I'm sitting there going, man, I'm so hungry. So I went down to the lobby, and I bought some potato salad. And I ate it, and I walked across the bridge, and I came back, and I peed, and I tested, same thing, proteinuria. I had all this protein spilling out in my pee, and they go, you have proteinuria. So I went back, and they said, well, we're not going to test you anymore because you have the same thing again. So obviously you have kidney problems. And I go, I do. And they go, yeah, that's what proteinuria is. You're spilling too much protein into your pee, so you probably have a kidney issue. So I was like, wow, that's weird. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to inject my kidneys with a needle 6 inches long.
Phew.
And take a sample of my kidney. And I go, there's no way. I'm not putting a 6-inch needle in my kidney. And I said, I'm doing gymnastics. I'm doing karate. I am boxing, and I'm lifting weights. And I'm running 6 miles a day. I'm in better shape than anyone coming out of basic training. If you guys don't want me, there's no way that I'm putting a needle in my kidneys. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, maybe. And I was overtraining. And so, you know, like food, everything was going through me. I was hypoglycemic. And next thing you know, I tested positive, and then that was it. And I said, well, can I go in? They go, no. So I'm like, well, screw that, man. I'm trying by all means to go in, and you guys don't want me, and I'm in great shape. So yeah. I tried the Air Force. So I went into the Air Force in 1983 or 84. I was trying to get in the Air Force, and next thing you know, I walked in and I said to the what's he called? What are those guys called?
Like the flight surgeon?
It wasn't a surgeon. It was
the recruiter.
Yeah, the recruiter. He goes, okay, I have a few questions for you. Number one, have you ever smoked pot? And I'm like, who hasn't? And he goes, sorry, we can't take you. And I was like, what? I didn't say I smoked pot. And he goes, well, and that was it. And he goes, sorry, see you later. And I was like, oh, man. And I go, forget it. Man, I grew up, all the kids that I went to high school with that were all top athletes, all of them were stoners. Everybody. It was just normal. You know, you grew up drinking beer and smoking pot. Did I smoke? I didn't smoke a lot of pot. I actually didn't like it because it didn't make me feel good. So, you know, and I didn't drink because I was a gymnast and I was the captain of my team. So I had to set an example. So, did I try it once? Yeah. But was I a stoner? No way. But I never got accepted. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, how am I so willing to go in and I can't get in? So next thing you know, that was it. I was like, you know, I'm moving to California. And then when I moved to California, I was in Palm Desert, Palm Springs. I was doing karate, taekwondo, because that's all there was out there. And I was training and fighting in tournaments. And then also I went down to Coachella boxing and got to box. And that's when I was driving to Redlands, California, here. Redlands is halfway from Palm Springs to LA. And I started training with Tim Tackett in his garage. And Tim Tackett said, hey, you know, and I said, well, I would eventually like to move to LA and train at the Jet Center with Benny the Jet Urquidez and go to the Untitled Academy. And next thing you know, he goes, hey, there are these Brazilians, these crazy Brazilian brothers have an open challenge, and you could pay or whatever, but they'll fight you. They have an open challenge. They'll fight you. And he goes, you should go train with those guys. They are out of Torrance, and they teach out of their garage. So I was sent as a guinea pig to go test the waters. I was the JKD guy, the token JKD guy that was sent to go test the waters with the Gracies, not to fight. I didn't want to fight them. I wanted to learn from them, but I wanted to see what it was. And I remember Rorian taught me one of the nicest private lessons. The way he talked, you know, he asked me what I would do if he grabbed me. He said, what would you do if I grabbed you? Grabbed your shirt. And just the way he said things, he was so well spoken and so convincing, and was just, you know, he was gentle, but he was teaching something that was completely combative and great for fighting, but the nicest guy. And then gave me a hug at the end, and I was like, man, this is amazing. I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Just, you know, they had a really warm demeanor about him, and Hoist wasn't so nice in the beginning stages because we were the same age, and he hadn't fought like his brothers had yet. He wasn't as accomplished yet, so he loved to tap me out. So someone asked me what it was like to train with Hoist, and I go, well, I would say Hoist basically taught me how to play the drums with all parts of my body. Because he taught me how to tap with my hands, with my mouth out the side of the gi. He taught me how to tap with my feet. And also introduced me to the fact that I never realized that I was claustrophobic until he laid on me and wouldn't get off me, and I was having a panic attack. And I had asthma issues. I had breathing issues because I was allergic to pollen and and smoke. And I was a bartender, and you could smoke in the bars back then.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of a strange time, and it was just, you know, it was just something that really, when I first learned it, it was like, wow, I got hooked right off the bat. And then I realized that, you know, most of the stuff they taught at that stage in Rorian's garage was the self-defense, the Gracie combative self-defense stuff. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, 3 or 4 years later, I actually took a private with Hickson, and he said, where would you like to start? And I go, how about let's start on the ground. Is that okay? And he goes, well, what do you think jiu-jitsu is? I go, self-defense? He goes, no. He goes, the premise is the ground. But one time, Hoist couldn't teach me, and Higgin came in. Master Higgin came in and didn't have much English, but man, he taught so much ground stuff. I was amazed. I was like, wow, your cousin is really good. And I didn't realize that Hoist, Higgin, and I are all the same age. I think I'm older. I think I'm older than I'm a week older than Higgin. I always remind him of that. And he said it doesn't matter. I go, you're right, it doesn't matter, but I just want to remind you. And then Hoist, I think I'm older. I think I'm a little bit older than Hoist, just maybe a couple months. I'm not quite sure, but it's pretty cool. So we're all the same age, and so I was very fortunate. I got a great deal, and I don't know, how did I even get on this subject?
Well, we were talking about the origins of grappling and fighting, previous to the Brazilians, the Gracie family coming to America, and your own origins. And one thing that I loved about what you said that really stuck out was you made, I would not call it necessarily sacrifice, though it was, you made a lot of effort at going out and finding good training. It sounds to me like you took your training in your own hands. You sought, it's okay. You sought out coaching, and you sought out experience and learning from a broad range of potential teachers and places to learn, because you were looking for something that was effective, and you weren't satisfied just sort of taking what was given. You were in the driver's seat of your training, so to speak.
I came to California to learn martial arts, and I knew California, Los Angeles had some of the most famous martial artists in the world were out here. And so when I got out here, I was just like a little kid in a candy store. And I remember I said, hey, is it okay if I put a mat down in my garage? And they go, no. And so for the first 4 years, I was training with Hoist and Rorian. I never put a mat down in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then one time my friend said, hey, aren't you doing some grappling or something like that? And I go, yeah. And he goes, what's that all about? And I go, So we got a mat from the local college, and we put it down in his garage. And I go, we're going to start on our feet, because all fights start on our feet. I said, we're not going to strike. We're just going to wrestle, and we're going to try to take each other down and go to the ground. And let's just try to hit each other in the face a little bit. Let's start with slaps. So we did that. And it was so funny because the mat was a 6x10 mat. So, someone's knee or elbow or head always went off the mat and hit the cement floor, or we hit the side, and, your elbow would go into the workbench, which was made out of wood. It's like, don't stop. So, I mean, we created, it was like cage fighting without a cage, but it was exciting because those were the times when, I started going, okay, you know what? The only way to get better because I wanted to fight, I said, we've got to test this out. So I called all my friends that were karate guys, and I called some wrestlers and some boxers, and I go, hey, you guys want to come over and train? And they go, yeah, sure. I go, we can hit the heavy bag. We'll do some jump rope. We'll do some focus mitts, and then we'll grapple. And I remember sparring with them, and then I go, let's grapple. And it was punching to the face. We had the boxing face saver, so I could punch the guys in the face. And because I played hockey and I played football, so I grabbed that thing and I just kept hockey punching the guy in the face. It's like, you can't do that. And I go, I just did. But yeah, it was just stuff like that. And we did that for a while, and we always would try to grapple, but we always were hitting each other or slapping each other, and it was real. So when I really got to fight in the MMA stuff, I had done that so many times for so many years with my friends, that getting hit on the ground wasn't unusual to me. It wasn't a shock. I know a lot of guys just do grappling and they don't add any strikes to it, and then they get punched in the face in a real fight, and they're just like, oh, right?
Yeah.
They go into shock. Or they go into oh shit land.
I think that's where I would go if I got punched in the face.
Well,
I'm not.
you don't know. You don't know until you try it. So that's why I teach a gi class, and then probably every 2 weeks I have a big basket of MMA gloves, freshly sponsored by Rev Gear, and the glove that I helped create was the Pride glove, and he knocked the Pride glove design off and created a Rev Gear glove and made it reasonable for all the guys to get. But it's a professional level glove. So we wear that, and everyone puts those on. And I said, you guys are allowed, do your jiu-jitsu, but what this is going to teach you is what sweep really works in the guard, in the closed guard or open guard. You're going to figure out your guard real quick, because that mid-range is where you don't want to be, because that's where people are going to be lighting your face up.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the guys, it's funny, the guys that do just pure jiu-jitsu, they you could tell they're really intimidated by some of the pros, because the pro fighters will come into the gi class, and the jiu-jitsu guys I go, have some faith in your jiu-jitsu and learn what works and what doesn't. You're going to try to do a flower sweep on a guy. I call it a ball sweep, but it's a flower sweep. And if your head isn't tucked all the way under their leg, and your leg is shucking them across, you're in mid-range, they're going to punch your face in.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got to know where their hands are at all times with control. And I'll tell you, when someone's pissed off and they don't care what you know, that's the best type of guy to fight, because that will truly test your skills. You got a guy that goes, I don't care what you know or what you think you know. All I care is that you're ugly, and I want to punch your face in. And that's it. And they hate you for no apparent reason other than they despise your looks.
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
There it is. So it's easy. So I used to have a drill. When I was fighting, I walk in the gym. I walk in the Untitled Academy. I go, all right, who here wants to punch me in the face? And everyone go, me. I want to punch you in the face. And I go, all right, line up. And I go on the wall, and I do my windshield wiper defense and my double pillar defense, a wall survival drill, and I would let everyone just punch me in the face or try to punch me in the face. And then I remember one guy, it was Salim Astley, was really like trying to knock me out. And I go, hold on a second. I go, the whole purpose of this drill isn't so I end up stupid. It's so I start to see your punches coming. And I go, if you're going at supersonic speed, I go, you're just stroking your own ego. Hey, help me out a little bit here. Let's play catch. I said, let's start out a little bit slow and then pick up the pace. If you're hitting me with 5 shots, that's not good for me. So I need to be picking up every shot. Once in a while, a shot's going to come in, but that's going to temper your chin. It's going to temper your temple and your nose. So you get a stinger, your eyes water. So you get used to getting hit. The problem with a lot of people is they don't spar enough and they don't get hit in the face. So they don't have a tempered chin. And when they get hit, they just deer in the headlights. You know when you get hit, boom, your head needs to start moving.
Mm-hmm.
If you get hit, bang, I need to start moving. And if you do not move, and the other thing is you don't close your eyes. So when I used to box, I used to get hit, and I used to open my eyes like this. And it's so funny, my old boxing coach would go, you're so funny to spar. Every time I hit you, your eyes get huge. And I go, yeah, because I'm forcing my eyes not to close. Because when you get hit, you don't want to look like you just ate a lemon. And that's what happens. A lot of guys are like, and then that's how you get knocked out. I would force my eyes open.
It makes sense because that first response when you get clipped is to blink and just try to shell up and close your eyes. And if you do that with someone with bad intentions, then you've basically just given them the opportunity to click the switch off.
That's what the half beat's for. If you hit a 1 and a 2 If I hit you with the 1 and you blink, you're going to open your eyes and then you're going to see number 2. But if I go like this, and hit you with the 1.5 beat, you're going to blink and my second hand's going to be in your face before you open your eyes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so the half beat, that's one thing that I really liked and I learned from some high-level boxers, was hitting on the half beat. The 1-2, the 2-3, the 3-4 beat.
Well, when it comes to your experience, you have obviously a broad range of teachers and, you know, a broad range of people that you've trained with and that you've trained. What are some things that you've observed along the way that made different people that you've observed more able to speed up their rate of learning over time versus someone else? Because you got a lot of experience. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I was at the Untitled Academy. I had tons of training partners. I moved to Orange County to open a school. I had no training partners. I was known as the guy that uses a total gym and his pull-up bar on his patio for 8 months straight. They go, is that a Chuck Norris total gym that guy's got out there? And I'm doing pull-ups, dips, and using my total gym for 8 months straight. And next thing you know, I'm like, you know what? Because this guy wanted to open a gym with me, and he kept putting all these gyms. I'd look at all these, I don't like it. I go, you know what? I'm going to go rent a karate school. I'm going to start a little club. I'm going to make it into a big club, but I'm going to start, and I'm going to get a little club together. And in order for me to get good, I need good guys. And nobody knows anything, but I'm going to get everybody good quick. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And I go, watch, you'll see. So first thing I would do is I would teach them as much as they could handle. I would teach them all the fine points, how to bridge, sprawl, sit out, how to do an armbar, a triangle, an omoplata. You teach them the attacks. You teach them to flow with the attacks, and then you teach them the defense to the attacks. And there's got to be, like in the guard, there's got to be one universal defense that works for all: the armbar, the kimura, the omoplata, the triangle. Yeah, it's called the lawnmower or the chainsaw. You rip your arm out and you hip in at the same time. So you walk. So it's hip in, head up, posture. So by teaching them the posture drill, which is actually the lawnmower. The lawnmower today, you push a button, so you can't really. And the chainsaw too. You know, you used to have a rip cord. Today, there's just a key and a button. So, but anyways, I call it the chainsaw. So the chainsaw defense. And so I would create one form of defense. Second was squaring up in the guard and keeping your hips tight and staying on your tippy toes. The tippy toes is a secret to not getting swept, and your defense is stronger, and your punches are stronger because you're on your tippy toes in the guard when you're in the guard. So attack. Number 1 is position. Number 2 is defense, how to get out of every position. Then you have attack, submissions from each position, but you just take one like an armbar and you teach it from every position. Mm-hmm. How to armbar everybody from every position, or how to hit a kimura from every position. How to hit a triangle, and they go, oh, I go, triangles are everywhere. And so, you know, that's how I got the idea of making a video on the triangle, or a video on the armbar, or a video on we call the chicken wing, which is the kimura. It's because there are so many variations of attacks that there are out there. You specialize in one submission, like leg locks, for instance. How many leg locks are there?
Boatload.
There's an Achilles lock, there's a heel hook, there's a knee bar, and there's a toe hold. And then there's variations of all those. So learn the basics, and then you learn, you know, application of when the person's rolling to transition from an Achilles lock to a knee bar, or a knee bar to a toe hold, or a toe hold knee bar at the same time, or when they turn, you go to a heel hook or an inverted heel hook. So your grappling game is a figure eight, and everything is based on perpetual motion. And so in the old days, when you would roll with somebody and you catch them, you would stop, you would acknowledge that you got caught, and you would let it like sink in for a second, and they go, okay, you ready to go again? You go, yeah. You high five or you knuckle, and then you go again. And it was, the Machados was different because they go, you're going to get caught, but the key is the movement, and the movement's going to help you get better. So every time you get caught, you tap, and then you just keep rolling from there. You don't stop and reset. And that was a big factor. That helped me out a lot, because the mentality was a lot different. But the problem is when you're rolling with somebody, now you got a guy, a young kid, he goes, hey, you want to roll? And you go, sure. You roll and you catch him and he taps. And then he keeps going and acting like you didn't just tap him. And then suddenly you're like, I'm getting tired here. I've tapped you about 30 times and you just keep coming after me and coming after me. So I go, finally, I need to put an end to this. And someone goes, yeah, you should really put a lock on. I go, no, you don't want to hurt your guy, because if you break your toys, you got nothing to play with. And he goes, what do you do? And I go, you put a choke on him and you hold it a little bit longer than you should. I go, that way he will respect. So when you put a choke on and he taps and he goes, oh, that was good. And he jumps on you and he goes, let's go again. And you go, no, hold on a sec. You roll with him again. You take his back, you choke him, and you let him go. And he goes to tap. No, don't let him go. Just hold him a little bit longer till he's almost out cold, and then let him go. And then he's got to take a little more time to come back, and then jump back on you and go crazy like a little kitty cat again. Because that's what happens. But so what I would do is I would teach guys as much as I possibly could, and all the fine things, for the fine points that were really important, the important details to get someone better. What's important? There's so much stuff. Let's focus only on a few things. Let's develop your game. So I came up with a video called Game Development, which was based kind of off of a judo background, and it was controlling appendages. You have a fast game, you have a heavy game, a basing game, a controlling game, an attacking game. And that's game development. Game development was specifically designed to teach people how to roll with people. Not just roll, but because a lot of guys, they don't have, when they go in, they don't have a game plan. They just roll.
Right.
So I would roll with guys sometimes and I would just defend. I work my defense the whole time. I go, please attack me. And then some guys, I would like, okay, I'm only attacking arms today. And they go, oh, okay. Oh, arm bars, only arm bars. Today I'm only attacking neck cranks. Today I'm only going to attack your legs. I'm going to work only on my back defense. I'm going to only work on, I'm going to put myself in your guard. I'm going to pass your guard over and over and over and over. Okay, you're going to go on my guard, and I'm going to work my guard retention. I'm going to work my mount retention. I'm going to get a mount on you and see if you can get out. And then you're going to do the same thing to me. So we do situations. And the situations is how you dissect the game, because the game is an entire puzzle, and you have to pull and extract each piece of the puzzle. And in the beginning, you have to work technique, and then you've got to take that technique. You've got to rep things out. So, like, you can warm up with a spinning arm bar. The guy goes, you could do 1, 2, 3, or even 4 spinning arm bars, and you just go, ready, 3 minutes, go. And you go crossbody, side control, forearm underhook, spinning arm bar. And then you keep hitting left and right, and then you mount, and then you hit a spinning armbar from the mount. Then you take their back and you go to choke and then hit a spinning armbar from the back. And then you go to the guard and then you hit a spinning armbar from the guard. And you just keep repping them out and repping them out and repping them out. So you're getting the mentality of attacking one tool at a time like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other times when you're rolling, you just take anything that comes. So a lot of times I would sandbag with guys and I would let them go. I go ahead and attack. So I defend and defend. And then as soon as they make a mistake, you capitalize on that mistake. And unless someone's like very experienced, they're going to make a mistake sometime. They're going to cross center line. Somehow, some way, they're going to cross center line. They're going to allow you to pass their guard. They're going to hit a bad takedown. You're going to take their back. They're going to dive roll. And you're going to keep your head down, and maybe they can't pull guard. Now you're in side control. And I found out later that passing the guard, I would just avoid side control. I'd go to north and south and pin them in north and south, and I would finish everybody in north and south.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talked to Jean-Jacques and Carlos, and I used to watch them when they'd roll, and I noticed they were avoiding side control. And I was like, I noticed that they're avoiding side control. So I'm sitting there thinking, there's a reason why they're doing that. They're passing the guard, they're going to north and south, avoiding side control. And then they're letting the person underneath, when they get north and south, the person will spin a little bit and defend, and then they'll go knee on belly and then slide them out. And what I realized is they said a lot of guys, when they get good, are really good at defending side control attacks, but they're not good at defending north and south attacks. And if they are, most of the time they're taught to spin and try to re-guard.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you mount them, or that's when you go knee on belly. And so it was just like some methods and tactics that they would use when they were rolling, which was cool because for me, I'm a sponge, and I am the type of guy that would get hurt and still go to practice and watch practice. I wouldn't just go, oh, I'm hurt. I physically can't train, so I'm not going to practice. Baloney. I would go to practice and sit and watch. When I was hurt, I would sit and watch because I learned from watching.
That was my coach's advice to me as well. I had an injury. I had an injury outside of jiu-jitsu that I hurt my ankle, and he said, man, I know that it's kind of a pain in the ass because everybody loves to roll. He's like, but just come in and watch and see what you can observe and make sense of. And I'm going to be honest, despite, a pretty serious lack of cardio when I started back, I actually came back better than when I got hurt.
Well, there's a story of two collie men. One guy was doing physical training, and he was doing all this physical training every day, and the other guy was visualizing his training.
Mm-hmm.
And when they fought, the guy that was visualizing it, he won the match. And they said, how did you win? You fought this guy that was training physically. How did you win? You weren't even training. He goes, yeah, I was mentally training. So when I fought my last fight, I dreamt and kept envisioning my body lock to take down the spin armbar. And I said, as soon as I get a body lock, as soon as I get a takedown, I'm going to hit a spinning armbar. And everyone goes, how did you hit that spinning armbar so quick? Because I got an ankle pick off of a fake left hook, and I ankle picked the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit an underhook and hit a spinning armbar. And they go, man, that transition was fast. I go, yeah, I did it 50 times. I did it 50 times in my sleep 2 nights before. I envisioned it. I just kept envisioning what I was going to use when I fought, when I got a lock on him. Because I knew it was going to be a striking match. The guy was a 5-time world Muay Thai champion. And I knew if I could get my hands on him, I was going to submit him.
Makes
So,
perfect sense.
so the envisioning part is important. And so 3 ways to learn: do it. Number 2, feel it. Number 3, watch it. So when you're hurt, you can't do it, you can't feel it, so you watch it. There was a rule at Hickson's, I remember, in the early days, 1990 to 1993 at that time. Guys would walk in and he would let them watch for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then he would say, would you like to join? Yes or no? You have to leave now. And they go, well, I want to watch the whole class. He goes, no. You either want to join or that's it. You can't watch the whole class. And I was like, wow, why do you guys cut them so short to watch a class? And he goes, because they're going to come in and steal.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, yeah, but there's not very many advanced guys that have that much. It was more secretive back then, you know, because
Sure.
a lot of people, they didn't know it. And we had wrestlers coming in and judokas and sambas. They would come in and they thought they could sit in on a class and learn and watch to see if they liked it or to critique. And when they decided to come in, I remember Limon or Hickson would say, okay. And he'd get one of the advanced guys and he goes, roll with him. And he goes, show him what jiu-jitsu is all about. So this guy would get his ass beat just so you'd have respect from the beginning.
Right.
Today, if you do that, some people would quit pretty fast. You go to a school and you get your ass kicked day one. A lot of people go, I don't know if I really want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the fighter mentality back then, and the fact that it was new and the lack of trust and the respect hadn't been developed yet, that was a big deal.
Yeah, I
So,
think the
10
modern student that comes in their first day probably has a very good picture in their head of what jiu-jitsu is, and also a knowledge of its effectiveness.
Today.
So that it doesn't have to be doesn't have to be beaten into them, so to speak.
Not back then. Back then it was like, let's show you what jiu-jitsu is all about.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you know kind of comes along, because like I was saying, you and like you were saying, you've been around this block for a long time, and that's required a lot of lessons in longevity along the way. Like, what things have you picked up that you feel have given you the ability to stay on the mats and roll and teach and perform at a high level, you know, at you know, like we'll say youth impaired state now, like I am.
Consistency.
Okay.
You have to be consistent. When you're a fighter, it's like this: you run up a hill and then you got to come back down. Then you go back up a hill and then you come back down. So you get good quick, but then you take your time off while everyone's constantly running. If you look at that graph, they're going like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the hare and the tortoise story. The hare tries to get to the end of the road, and then the tortoise is just slowly creeping along, and suddenly he beats the hare. And so I wanted to get, how do I get better than all of the people that I'm training with at the same time? So first of all, I look at all the people I was training with at the same time. Number one, they were coming to one class 3 days a week. So I said, I'm going to go 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to class 5 days a week. Now I'm going to take 2 classes a week. 2 classes a day. Not only am I going to do 2 classes a day, 2 training sessions a day, I'm also going to run at the end of practice, because nobody runs. Who at the end of your practice puts their shoes on and goes for a 15-minute run?
Mm-hmm.
Me, I did. Everyone goes, you got a fight coming up? I go, no, I just want to be better than everybody. And they go, huh? I go, your wind is only as good as much as you were pushed in class. I go, I'm going for a 15-minute run. I'm tired. I'm going for a run. And they're like, wow. So I would always run at the end of practice. I would always run. Sometimes I'd run before practice. Here's the second thing. How many people at the end of practice do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups?
0.
Me, I did. I did it because others didn't do it. So I'm thinking, I wonder how many guys here lift weights. You know what? I'm going to go to the gym at lunchtime after training. I'm going to eat, take a nap after training. And then before my night session, and at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go to the gym and lift weights. And I'm going to do whatever, circuit training, or I'd jump in the pool. I would ride my bike. I would swim. And I also had rollerblades, and I would rollerblade. And all my friends that were fighters, they were all laughing at me. They're like, you just can't run, so you rollerblade. And I go, well, look at it like this. I can rollerblade and you can't. So let's look at it like that. I mean, I go, you know, if you could rollerblade, you would rollerblade too. I said, the rollerblading is just as good as running. And they go, I go, you just can't rollerblade. So, you know, you're going to argue with me. But I had the long sprinter skates, you know, with the long wheelbase.
I do.
And I would crouch down low, and I would do deep, heavy, fast strides. And I would do sprints, and I'd go flying around. And I used to rollerblade, I don't know, 2 to 5 miles a time. And it's funny because instead of running, because I had a torn meniscus in my knee I never fixed, I would go rollerblade. I could run 2 or 3 miles. I would say 2 to 2.5 miles, and my knee would freeze up.
Sure.
Because it would lock up on me. But I could rollerblade 5 miles. And so I'm like, okay, this would be supplemental to running, aside from running in the pool and kickboard swimming in the pool with a crawl stroke, with the buoy between my legs. And with the paddle board, I would put the buoy between my legs and use the paddle board, use the legs, to kick, and then I would run laps in circles. And then I would do underwater holds. I would go underwater, and I would sit underwater I would try to hold my breath for a minute at a time. I would come up, 30-second break, boom, back under for a minute. And I would do 10 of those or 20 of those or 30 of those. And I didn't realize that until my last fight, those underwater holds would actually make me sleep like a baby. What they do is they put tons of oxygen in your bloodstream, which makes you have childhood dreams.
Huh.
So I woke up and I was stuck at myself. Over and over, and I was like, gaga goo goo, baby wants milk. And I was having childhood dreams. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. And it was the underwater holds. Because I always would swim with somebody, a training partner.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how far you can swim underwater. So you try to make it to the far wall. But for me, I go, okay, I'm going to make it to the far wall and make it back here. And they go, no way. And I go, oh, yeah. And I went from one wall to the other wall back here, and then I got halfway back. And they're like, holy crap. And do you understand how that increases your lung capacity?
It has to. There's
underwater holds are the secret.
That's fascinating. That reminds me a little bit of
sprinting.
Like the Wim Hof method, where he overloads oxygen and then you'll do like a 3-minute breath hold after that.
Hyperventilate. When you hyperventilate like that, the hyperventilation, it oxygenates your bloodstream. There's another thing I would do. I would go like this. Eddie Bravo probably could relate to this one. It's pretty good. You go like this, you go. And so what you do is you expand your lungs as much as you can, and then you suck in little amounts of air, and you get your lungs bigger and bigger and bigger, and you hold it, and then you exhale, just like you're taking a bong hit. I've heard.
We'd have to ask somebody. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I was kidding, Eddie. That was a joke. So, anyways, so I learned that from my boxing coach, and he trained with a dive master. And before they go deep diving, they go, and then you push, and your lungs expand. And so another thing I need to talk about is, because I used to run a lot, and then I used to sprint at the end of my run. And everyone said, your sprint has to be separate than your run. I'm like, no. I walk, I jog, I run, I sprint. And then I walk, run, jog, sprint, and not in that order. I mix it up. And then at the end, I have 5 minutes of sprints. And someone goes, no, it needs to be separate. I go, no, it doesn't. And they said, yeah, it does. I go, hold on a second. I'm a professional fighter. When I fight, that's what fighting is. You walk, you jog, you run, you sprint. You walk, you jog, you run, you sprint. And then you sprint. And then you walk. And then you jog. And then sometimes you just stop. And you hold. And that's it. And so that type of running, interval running, and then it's funny, I had all these guys going, you need to do 40 minutes of cardio on the treadmill. And I go, you mean the hamster wheel? And they go, huh? I go, 40 minutes on a treadmill is actually 20 real minutes of running. Someone goes, I ran 7 miles on the treadmill today. I go, oh, really? You ran 3 miles? And he goes, huh? I go, 7 miles on a treadmill is about equivalent to about 3 real miles on the road because of the propulsion.
Right.
Because you're pushing and your muscles are engaged. You're on a hamster wheel. You're not pushing yourself. You're just moving your feet. You're keeping up. You're not propelling yourself.
Right.
And then there was a guy named Manson Gibson. He was a professional kickboxer and a karate guy, and he used to always run backwards. He would do 5 to 10 mile runs backwards. Have you ever ran backwards?
Not for more than about 5 or 10 feet.
I ran backwards right into traffic. I almost died. I'm like, hey, I'm going to try that running backwards. Like, meh, meh. It's like, whoa, shit. I almost died. I was close. Another time I was running in the nighttime and the sidewalks, when you run, and there's trees next to the sidewalks, their root system grows under and the sidewalk goes like this. So I'm running at night, and these kids are like, oh, wow, I wonder why that guy's running. He's got a windbreaker on. That guy, he looks like he might be a fighter. And all of a sudden I tripped. Ooh. And I almost did a face plant, and I did a dive roll. I stood up, and I just kept running. And this kid goes, did you see that? I mean, it could have been really dangerous. So running at nighttime on an uneven surface is very dangerous, especially when you're running on cement, because sometimes the curbs are uneven from the roots.
Yeah. What you just said there reminded me, I took my son on vacation to Washington, D.C. last winter. And he's been doing taekwondo and martial arts since he was about 4. And they do a lot of break falls and a lot of, basic gymnastics in that early program. And he hit a little bit of black ice, and his feet came out from under him, and he did a perfect break fall, slapped the ground. His head didn't touch the ground at all.
Wow.
He got up and kind of laughed it off. And I didn't say anything, you know, because you want to be like, oh shit, are you okay? And then he just kind of hops back up with a chuckle. And I was like, yeah,
And he
you're
goes, I
safe.
tried to do that.
Yeah. I was like, good job. And so I came back and I told his Taekwondo instructor, I was like, hey, bud, you don't know it, but you might have, you know, saved him an injury. And then I told him the
Crack
story, and
it.
he's like, that's why we do the break falls in every warm up.
I love it. That's important. That is really, really important.
Yeah, that's a foundational life skill, is, you know, being able to fall. One that I wish I had early training in, but didn't.
That's why I have a program I created. It's called Combat Athletics, and it's all gymnastics, but it's the conditioning aspect of gymnastics. And actually, I will be working back on it on Thursday. No, tomorrow. Tomorrow, actually. And what I did is my old gymnastics coach, I hired him, and we took every piece of equipment. We took the parallel bars, the high bar, the rings, the pommel horse, and the floor routine. And we created all the exercises that you could do to strengthen your body that we use for conditioning in gymnastics. Because a lot of people, a lot of martial arts especially, have never seen how gymnastics, gymnasts train. They just see a guy that's big and strong and can control his body weight, and they don't know how and why. And so we put 4 floor routines together, which are compatible, that you could do. It's all circle running and jump splits and dive rolls and cartwheels and front handsprings, front head springs, back handsprings, back tuck back flips. But most of them, that's advanced stuff. But just the cartwheel and the round off, and an aerial, which is an armless cartwheel, and a head spring and a kip from your back, and a kip with a hand, with 2 hands and with no hands, and a Valdez, which is a back handspring from your seated position, which is from your butt. And then all the different pull-ups. We have all these different dips, all these different push-ups, pull-ups, dips, stomach, all the different stomach routines, and then stretching, which is the flexibility aspect. So now you're strong and you're flexible. Boy, that's a pretty good athlete.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So is that a video series that you have out? Or?
It's going to be a download that we're releasing, hopefully within a couple weeks. It should be done, because I shot it 2 years ago before I got sick. And I was in the hospital for a month, and it got put on hold, and it was in the can, and nobody touched it. And then I just said, hey, I filmed, I paid these guys. I had this whole project. I even had an editor and everything fell through, but I filmed everything. Yeah. So I had it. So Bob Berge, my webmaster, I kept asking, I go, Bob, I know it's not like fun to do for you because it's gymnastics, and you know, if you've never done gymnastics, it's hard to relate, but it's cool to watch this guy because of his all the exercises, and it's trampoline. There's stuff on the trampoline too. I mean, It's fun. If you've never done gymnastics, and if you were to take some private lessons at a local gymnastics school, you would see how significant it helps your jiu-jitsu, how it helps all your grappling, your kickboxing, everything, because the flexibility and the body control. And you just get so ungodly strong. It's amazing.
There's been a lot of studies that reflect that athletic carryover from, you know, a gymnastic base. They would take, say, basketball players and teach them to play baseball, or baseball players and teach them to play basketball. Then they would take gymnasts and teach them to do anything. And you know, without fail, the gymnast always picked up any sport that they were trained outside of their own sport much quicker than any other cross-sport athlete who was not trained.
It's because of the athletic ability that you have to do to become a gymnast. You have to run, you have to bound, you have to be flexible. And then most gymnasts are taught to be an all-around. So You could be a specialist. The most gymnasts today, the good ones, they're all around. So you have to do parallel bars. You have to do high bar. You have to do rings. You have to do floor. You have to do the vault. And when you do all that stuff, it's just like that is what all the old gym classes used to teach all the kids, gymnastics. Yeah. When I grew up, there was a trampoline in our school. In gym class, we were forced to learn how to do a backdrop, a front drop, a backdrop on the trampoline until one kid decided to do a backflip and there was no spot and he went flying and he flew off the trampoline. I remember he landed and we heard a loud crack. We turned around and it was his arm had broken in half.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I wonder, I'm in elementary school.
Yeah.
I wonder if trampolines are dangerous for normal kids. And then they took the trampoline out of the schools because there were lawsuits.
Too much liability, yeah.
Well, it's sad. And they took it out of gymnastics too. But then they kind of brought it back. And most guys that do stunts, they're all taught to do trampoline. You have to train on the trampoline.
That's really awesome. And kind of exciting. I actually, when I was a kid, had access to a trampoline and I got pretty darn good at it. One thing that I found from jumping on the trampoline all the time, I was really, really small. And my mom actually would not let me play football because she was like, "You're a fairly smart kid. I don't want you to get your head knocked off by a bunch of big kids." This was long before we knew anything about CTE or anything. That was just her rule. But she would let me lift weights with the football team.
Podcast.
Oh, sorry. I remember when I was a freshman, I couldn't bench press with the freshmen, but I could squat and deadlift with the senior linemen because of all that time on the trampoline that I had spent. Like I had really strong legs and back from just, jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping.
That's right. It's funny because my son Bryson, when he was a little kid, they had a trampoline and he was 1.5 years old and 2 years old. He goes, hey, Dad, watch this. And I remember because I just went to see him and all of a sudden he was doing backflips. And I go, how old are you? He goes, I'm 2. And I go, who taught you how to do that? And he goes, me, I taught myself. And he taught himself how to flip. And same thing, he plays every sport and he's just a natural at every sport because of the fact that he learned how to tumble when he was a little kid. He taught himself how to tumble.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So if I was to train, if someone asked me, hey, what would you suggest? What would you suggest for a little kid? I said wrestling, judo, and gymnastics.
Yeah, I think that's
you had a choice. I'd say, well, wrestling and gymnastics. Gymnastics by far. But if you can't do gymnastics, wrestling. And then judo.
Makes
I started
perfect sense.
judo when I was in 4th grade. I loved it. But
Yeah,
I think wrestling has got all the same throws as judo, and you don't have to grab clothing. I know it because I tested it. I asked when I was training with Rico Ciparelli, I actually called out all these throws, and he did every single throw. I said, Harai Goshi. And he goes, what is that? And I go, well, you have an over or an underhook, and it's far leg. You're going to lift him up. You're going to hip toss. It's like an Uchimata. It's like instead of kicking one leg, you kick both legs out. And he goes, oh, yeah, wrestling has that. He goes, it's like a hip toss, but you're kicking their legs instead. And so he did all these throws. Every throw that I asked him to do, he did. Seonagi arms, which is like an arm spin, or they call it Jap whizzer. Oichigari, which is an inside leg trip. Koichigari, which is an inside and an inside outside leg trip. Kosotogari, which is a near leg outside trip, and an Oso, which is a far leg outside trip. He had all of them. Ogoshi, which is a hip toss. Kubinagi, which is a head and arm throw. He did everything. And I was like, so wrestling has all the same throws as judo? I go, what about this? He goes, normally we don't go to our, like a tomonagi, which is a cowboy throw. You go to your back.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, yeah, we don't do that. He goes, you don't want to go under a good wrestler. And I go, well, why is that? And he goes, because they'll sprawl on you and they'll kill your throw and pin you. And so I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, all those sacrifice throws, those don't work on a good wrestler. So I'm like, huh. So I go to Germany and they go, hey, Erik, our judo coach wants to run Dory with you. And I was like, and he was a Bundesliga, I don't know. I forget what level he was, but he was 40 years old. He might, at that time, might have been 2 years older than me. And all I remember is what Rico said. So the guy ties up with me right off the bat, and he hits a combo throw. He tries an uchimata to a Haraya-goshi, to a step behind, to a sacrifice, like a dropping sitting throw. And I stuffed him with my hips. And then he went under me with the sumagesh. Sumagesh is a sacrifice throw. And as he went under me, I sprawled and I took his breath and then I armbarred him. And they were like, holy crap. And the guy goes, wow, you got good hips. And I go, that's just wrestling 101. Which it is. It's wrestling. It's a sprawl. And I remember Rico said, if anyone ever tries to go under you, just sprawl on him. And he tried to hit a sacrifice throw, and I just sprawled and killed it. And we both hit the ground at the same time, and I ended up on top. And it kind of took his wind. Didn't knock all the wind out of him, but he's like, oh.
Sure.
And then I went, oh, spin armbar. And then everyone was in shock. I was in shock because I had a white belt on and he was a black belt. But that's it. Wrestling, you use wrestling against high-level judo. If you can, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
I've trained with some high-level judo guys, and man, as soon as they touch your gi, you are gone. But the whole thing is you wrestle. But, you know, your posture is different. If you put your head forward and your butt back, it's called jigate. It's a stalling technique.
Mm-hmm.
So when you engage, you have to engage with an erect posture. So, you know, elbows in and back, but you got to come forward. When you're walking, you got to walk forward without dropping your butt back and your head down like the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and wrestling too has that lower posture. Yeah,
it's a wrestling style base. Either offensive is one leg forward or defensive is a square stance.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, Coach Paulson, this has just been a fantastic chat. I've got some stuff to do in the pool based on what you told me, so I got some work to do.
You're going to go out to the pool right now?
Well, at the moment here in Kentucky, our gyms with pools aren't open just yet, but I think we're on schedule, and it's either going to be July 1st or July 15th, depending upon how
Really?
Yeah.
We're lucky. We just reopened. We were closed for 3 months, but we were really fortunate that we just got to open on Monday.
Yeah, I think it's Kentucky's a little bit more. The governor's been a little bit more cautious on the gyms. It's been really tight. And
are you guys a blue or red state?
Well, we're a red state with a Democratic governor.
Oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah,
probably.
So,
yeah. I don't think. You know what? Do what's right for the people. If the cases here have diminished, except for them allowing all the riots to happen and then saying nothing about social distancing. You know,
yeah,
these guys are all out there like neck and neck. And I'm like, I've been staying at home this whole time, avoiding everybody. How is that okay? I don't understand how that's okay. I've been avoiding everybody like the plague. And then they go, and then our governor and then our mayor said, yeah, you guys, we could open in Orange County. You guys are able to open on Monday. And I was like, oh. So
Well,
it was
that's
nice.
fantastic.
It was exciting to see everybody back. So July, you know what? This month's almost over.
Yeah.
So it goes really quick.
I'm really excited. I'm excited for you that you guys have gotten to reopen. And our time's coming. And just like going back to the beginning of this discussion, you went and you looked and you worked hard and tried to find a solution, to getting the best training that you could. And that's the situation that I'm in right now. I didn't really have to pay dues the way that you did. When I wanted to start, jujitsu or any training, there were 4 schools within 10 minutes of me. And that situation, that's very easy. So this bit of adversity on my part, I really can't say, especially having talked to, like some OGs like yourself, I really can't say I've got anything to complain about. Does this suck? Yeah. But I mean, people have dealt with a whole lot worse. We talked to somebody who was driving 400 miles every Friday night to go train over the weekend in New York because that was the only, jiu-jitsu that was close enough to do it, and then driving back Sunday night to go back to work.
Wow.
And so I've got nothing to complain about.
Sacrifice.
I'm just doing what I can, and I think that's all. That's what we have to do.
That's right. And there's tons of calisthenics and things you could do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overeat. Eat 2 meals a day because you're not digesting as fast as you would. Try to eat 2 meals a day. Try to eat more alive food. Don't eat a bunch of processed food. And, try your intermittent fasting. That works really well. Try to eat a lot of salads, a lot of vegetables, and then get out and walk. If you can't run, get out and walk. Walking has as many benefits. It has a lot of benefits for your brain also.
Yeah.
It gets your brain functions active. It makes you think faster. And also vitamin D3, D5, vitamin C, CoQ10, and glutamine is one of the best mixtures to boost your immune system, to blast it out of the water.
Yeah.
Vitamin C. How much vitamin C? You could take up to 6,000 milligrams a day. I wouldn't take that much. That'll give you diarrhea. I would take about maybe 3, and then I would take CoQ10. I take the Qunol, CoQ10, Qunol with turmeric.
Yeah.
And then I take 15 grams of glutamine with that. And then I take handfuls of D3. I take a bunch of the gel caps. And I take that every single day. And man, it boosts you. And I eat a ton of garlic. I roast it, I boil it, I put garlic in everything because it really, really boosts your immune system.
Well, I'm gonna look into the CoQ10. CoQ10. I use the vitamin D and vitamin C, and then I have I eat at least one. Like we had Dr. James Escaloni on the podcast, and he was talking about joint health as we age. And his advice was to eat a pound of vegetables every day because it's really hard to eat a bunch of shit after that. And the more that we control our blood sugar as we age, the greater the amount of tendon and ligament suppleness that we maintain. So high blood sugar causes stiffness in ligaments and tendons, which makes them more likely to be injured. Wow. So his advice was, just as a blanket, if you eat a pound of vegetables a day, man, honestly, good luck eating a whole bunch of crap after that.
But you don't feel like it. You feel like you feel the benefits of a live food when you eat it, and immediately like whoop. It's like drinking green. This guy said, hey, I dare you to drink green juice every day for a month. And I go, what does it do? He goes, just do it. So I tried it. And man, no coffee, just a big 32 ounce of green juice.
Yeah.
And it was like four or 5 things. It was an apple, kale, spinach, and broccoli, and one other thing. And man, for 1 month, it was like, brrr.
Yep.
And then I took spirulina and chlorella with that, which was like, my third eye was popped wide open. And then I drank fulvic acid and took blue ice skate oil, which is fermented skate oil, and it opens your third eye. So when you meditate, it's like, you know, it's like you're leaving your body. You can see all like geometrical shapes. It feels like you're leaving your body. And
that's pretty heavy duty stuff.
Well, yeah, it's just, I was trying to study to find out what you could take that would decalcify your third eye. And it was a spirulina, chlorella, blue skate ice oil, and the fulvic acid. And then I also take something called Oramus. Oramus is a geometrically, they create it under a copper pyramid, and it drips, and it is a special salt. It's called a Bolivian sea salt, and it's a mixture of salts, and it drips, and it forms this fluid called Oramus, and you take it, and again, it puts you in your light body, your etheric body. You have like 5 different bodies, but it expands your entire body, your etheric body, and it helps big time with your light body. And when you meditate, you immediately, it feels like you leave your body, go to the higher realms.
Well, I'm going to have to look into that stuff too, because meditation is a thing. There's certainly a meditative element to grappling, but that's
meditation
more like
helps boost your immune system. Deep meditation completely helps boost your immune system. Aside from the sunlight, it's the meditation.
I definitely want to check into more of that. I've practiced meditation, but I always feel like a monumental failure at it. Like I just get bored and I'm like, well, I'm not good at this shit. So I'll try it some other time.
You just need to learn, like the meditation that I actually learned was the Merkaba meditation. And once I learned that, I read it in a book and I said, man, I want to learn that. And it was just weird. It was like divine, heaven sent, because I suddenly worked on Brock's Ultimate Fighter show. And while I was in Vegas, I was developing a TV show that was on fighting and healing. It was half fighting, half healing. And so I interviewed this lady, and she had a sacred geometry emblem on her chest. Her husband did. And I said, sacred geometry, flower of life. And he goes, oh, you know what? You should talk to my wife. And I go, I'm doing a TV show. Could I interview her? And I interviewed her. And she goes, what books are you currently reading? And I brought them all with me because I moved to Las Vegas for 3 months to work on that show. And so I brought all these books, and I was reading all these books, and I pull all these books out. And she looks at them, and there was Drumbalo Melchizedek's Ancient Secrets of Egypt. And it was a purple book with a gold flower of life on the cover. And she goes, I'm reading these two right now. And I said, I'm not understanding some of it. And I said, and I really want to learn that meditation in that book, because he said it's magical and it changes your life. And she goes, oh, that's kind of weird. And I go, why is that? And she goes, well, those are my workbooks. I teach that meditation. I go, what? She goes, I'm a facilitator. And I go, what? And it was like, I don't even know how suddenly I learned. All of a sudden I'm sitting there, and I'm interviewing a lady. She's a full-blown facilitator, and she's already in her light body. And she sent me a picture, and there was a picture of her, and she's split in half. And they took a picture of her while she was merging into her light body, and it's she had her head here and her head here, and her body was split in half. It was weird. It was almost like multidimensional. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And she goes, yeah. And her husband was telling me about, her husband's Don House. Do you know Don House from the Ultimate Fighter? He's the guy that looks like Sugar Ray Leonard. He's the cut man.
I do know him. Yep.
On the UFC that looks like Sugar Ray.
Yeah.
That's her husband. And her name is Dr. Edwige. Edwidge, and her last name is Binge, Binge, I believe. Dr. Edwige Binge. And she started talking, and I was like, holy crap, this lady has so much information. Have you ever met somebody and they started talking and you go, I don't think she's from this planet?
Yes.
She had so much like forbidden knowledge or knowledge that I had never heard about. And she started talking. I was like, it was perfect, right up my alley, because I like that stuff.
Yeah.
I like to listen because she had all this knowledge on Egypt and just life and planets and angels, celestials and terrestrials, and it was interesting. She had a knowledge on God and Jesus and everything. It was amazing. The interview was great. It's 4 hours, but that's how I learned this meditation. It was, I believe it was like put in my lap for a reason. Suddenly she goes, would you like a CD of it? And I go, well, could I ask you about she goes, the mudras? And I go, yeah, and the fingers. And so it's finger counting. And then it's 2 and 1. And then it's a circle upside down like that. And those are the 3 mudras. And I found out the mudras are circuits. And your body's a battery. Your right hand's a positive and your left hand's a negative. So when you go out and you meditate in the grass, put water under your feet. The first thing is put water in the grass under your feet. So you're actually getting a current into the ground, and you ground into earth first. And then you bring a beam of light through your body, which is called the Harline. The Harline is a white beam of light that goes from heaven to the center of the earth, right through your chakras, through the center of your body. It goes to the center of the earth. So basically, when you do a meditation, just remember this. We are walking beams of light because we are light. There's a divine spark of God in all of us. And we are a walking beam of light, and some people's light is brighter than others based on if you acknowledge it or not, or if you work on that. So that's what meditation does, is it brightens the bulb, and it also grounds you, and it gives you more of a connection to earth, to the elemental spirits, and also to God and to the celestial spirits. And some people meditate and they deal with the terrestrials, which are the extraterrestrials. It's funny because without getting weird or anything like that, you talk about these people that smoke DMT, right? And I was listening to all these people talk about it. And if you look at all the stories, when everyone's talking about their trips on DMT, which is, by the way, it's a 10-minute or 15-minute trip. It's 10 or 15 minutes and it's done. And they all say, everyone that I talk to, they've all seen aliens. Joe Rogan was talking that he said he popped out and it was like all white all around him, and he saw sacred geometry floating, and he saw tubes, white tubes with white light streaming out of everybody, and everyone was connected. We're all connected to a electrical tube, like a tubing system, and there's electrical light going through, or electromagnetic energy going through these tubes. But a lot of people, like I had a guy come to my gym, and he was talking because his grandfather worked at NASA in Bakersfield, and this guy was training with me, and he came out to do an intensive program, which was 5 hours or 10-hour course. And we basically were covering some grappling stuff, obviously. He's like, I'm thinking about fighting. He goes, but let's just do grappling. I go, okay. So we're doing some grappling stuff. And so we just started talking, and all of a sudden he goes, I smoked DMT last week. And I go, huh? I didn't even know how that came about. And I go, what was your experience? Because I've heard multitudes of stuff. And he goes, well, he goes, basically, he goes, the DMT that I tried was, he goes, they can get it from grass. And DMT is just, it's what your body releases right before you go to sleep. And it allows you to have these unbelievable dreams. So this guy said he had smoked, he took one hit. He said he didn't feel anything. And his buddy said, take one more hit and hold it. And then he shut the blinds and all of a sudden, boom. He suddenly was like out of his body. And next thing you know, he said, you know, the Easter Island heads, those big heads?
Yeah.
They appeared all around him and they started talking to him. I go, what'd you do? He goes, I shit myself. He goes, I didn't know what to do. I was trying to run away and get away from them because they were all around me and they were talking. And I go, what were they saying? He goes, I don't know. I was so scared. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to hear. And I go, obviously you have a connection to extraterrestrials or terrestrials. And he goes, that's funny you'd say that because my grandfather told me before he died, he said, my grandfather sat him down and said, I work for NASA. And he goes, I want to let you know I've been taken. Your father's been taken and you're going to be taken if you haven't been already. He said, they've agreed to not touch the females, but all the males in our family will be connected to the terrestrials. I was like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy duty stuff.
No, he's not believe me, I've interviewed and talked to a bunch of people and they've said several different things. Some people have angels around them, like guides and helpers and angels. And then some people have terrestrials, you know, and then some people just go out into space. I had a friend who said he was floating through the galaxy and he saw a trickster that actually saw him and he spun him and he was spinning through the galaxies and they actually had to grab him. He was spinning. They spun him because they thought it was funny. And he said there's a female presence, like when people do ayahuasca, they call her Mother Aya. And this female goddess energy appears, and he said that's what he said. He goes, it was a female energy that actually goes, that's enough. And she stopped him from spinning, and then she started talking to teach him, you know, because this guy is ex-vet with PTSD.
Yeah.
And it was on a quest to end his PTSD by microdosing with mushrooms and DMT, and he actually healed himself that way.
I'm glad he was successful.
Yeah, of course. But I think, you know, I know a lot of the vets do it with maybe a little bit of marijuana. That helps a little bit. I've heard.
I've read.
Yeah, I've read. Well, because I have a couple friends that have it really bad, but my friend, he's a fighter. He goes, I don't want to smoke. And he goes, and the thing is, he goes, I get tested all the time. But so they said microdose with mushroom, psilocybin. Don't do a full mushroom. Just take a cap or take a stem, and just take it with lion's mane and niacin. And he goes, what does that do? They go, it opens a part of your mind that's blocked off. They said, don't get high. They said microdose. And that's what he started doing. And it's been working. I mean, this guy's happy-go-lucky now. He no longer has night terrors and goes back. He's no longer back in the war.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's really phenomenal. Well, Coach Paulson, I got to go.
Yeah, it's late at night. I'll let you go. I'm sorry to keep. We went off on a tangent there, but.
No, that was awesome because, you know, I wanted to get your perspective, raw and uncut. You know, what do you think? What have you seen? What have you learned? And, you know, how can I take that and apply it to what I do? And so I'm really happy that you were as open with us as you were. And I cannot thank you enough for your time and your insights. And I can tell you very honestly that you've already given me a bunch of ideas of what I've got to do to improve my training. And so, those lessons are not, taken for granted. And I'm glad I get to share them via this podcast with others.
Work on your strengths. Like, take a few things and work your attacking game, your go-tos. But then to really get good, work all the things you're not good at.
Yeah.
And not only that, work your bad side. So if you're right-handed, work your left side armbar, left side seonagi, drop seonagi. Because a lot of people are right-handed. I don't know what the number is of people right-handed versus left, but some guys that trick you a lot are the guys that are really good on the left side. Even when you sweep, you're going to do a scissor sweep with your right leg on top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Practice sweeping, scissor sweeping with your left leg on top, because most people don't expect that.
That reminds me of Craig Jones in his Z-Guard instructional. He talks about forcing people to pass to their right with his Z-Guard, because most people pass to the left.
That's right.
And so just by making them do that, he's already brought their guard passing and balance down about 20%. Yep.
That's great. That guy's great. He's one of the top in the world by far.
He's not terrible. Well,
gotta learn from everybody.
I hear you on that, and I definitely
everybody can teach you something.
Yep.
White belt mentality.
So if some of my old roller brothers and sisters want to learn more about you or reach out to you, what would be a good way to find out more about you?
ErikPaulson.com. I have a online university with about 4,000 videos. It's $30 a month. And we offer a ton of information on there, which is kickboxing, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, Higa Machado, Greg Nelson, Nikolai Soniak, Ben Jones. We have a ton of different guys on there through countless years. Some of our fight practice footage where we're sparring, MMA, tons of different things, a mixture of all the camps. I've had 20 camps. We started, I think about maybe 20 camps. Every year we have an annual camp, and then I do about five to six camps a year, but more for the, it's called the CDP. It's a coach development program. So I have a coach development program for people all over that could get certified and ranked in 4 different arts, which is submission wrestling, which is a catch wrestling base, to submission wrestling, no-gi, STX kickboxing, and then I have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. We're working on a self-defense program, the combat cross-training. The combat cross-training program will be out shortly. We're working on a self-defense, and then possibly we're going to do a meditation, a series on some meditation stuff to make it appealing for everybody.
Well, I'm definitely, we'll put the link in the description to erikpaulson.com, and then, give people access to that. And when the combat cross training comes out, I'll be interested in checking that out
that
myself.
Should be out. And then I also, with Rev Gear, I work with Rev Gear. I created a ground bag called the Motion Master, and during quarantine is probably the best bag that once you learn how to move around on that thing. It doesn't have any arms or legs on it. It just has nubs, and it's got 2 heads. And it's based on perpetual motion. You just beat the crap out of that thing, and it makes you move. It will improve your movement on the ground at least 30%.
Well, I actually was going to share this with you as part of the show, but we didn't get to it. But I had a friend who had a Motion Master, and he showed me one of the drills from a video, and I started practicing it. And my motion on top, I was a white belt getting fairly close to blue belt and was having a hard time, keeping people pinned. And my motion on top just like skyrocketed. I went from a guy who was like, if he passed your guard, then, you just basically re-guard pretty quick, to a guy that was like a real pain in the ass if he ever did get past your guard, And
Wow.
So I wanted to thank you for that. You really helped my game out a lot.
The Motion Master teaches you how to move. And that's the biggest thing is just makes you move and move and move and move, and then you can add the strikes, and it pulls monsters out of people because there's a lot of pent up frustration, and you'll see housewives just hammer fisting the bag, and just monsters are coming out, and I'm like, man, that bag's really working. It's doing its job. But that's what the bag was created for, that purpose, and I didn't know it, but they're selling tons of them at RevGear.com. And then every year we do RevGear University, where we have all the business meetings. You could buy some of the RevGear equipment at a high discount price. And they have Krav Maga, and they've got all these different instructors in Thai boxing. And they bring in all these different Dwayne Bang Ludwig and tons of different Muay Thai guys. And there's a ton of people. It's RevGearUniversity.com, and it's usually in San Antonio, Texas. And it's probably in August.
We'll put that link up as well for anyone interested in that. And with that, Coach, I can't say thank you enough. You passed on such amazing info. And I know for myself and also my fellow old rollers that a lot of good stuff here that we can put to use to be better on the mat for longer.
Well, thank you. Also, if you want to bring me back on, if people send you a list of questions, I could come on for a half hour and just answer some questions.
Well, we'd be glad to do that. For anyone who watches this episode on YouTube or listens in the audio only, just shoot me a question at theoldroller@gmail.com or comment on the YouTube feed. And
if you get enough questions, I could come back on, or I could just, I could text you and answer stuff too.
That'll be awesome. We'll put that up, and then when we get a few questions, we'll bring it back on to answer them. And very, very happy that you're willing to come back.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. And
I appreciate
God bless
your
you
time.
during this lockdown. You know what? It's just a blip in time. It's gonna go quick. Stay positive.
Agree.
Stay positive.
This is my dues paying period, is the way I see it.
Oh, that's cool. Stay positive. This will all be over soon.